Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our webinar today. This is our first out of a series of three about unlocking student potential, low stakes writing, a path to better essays. And I'm so proud and so happy to welcome Dr. Craig Wynne with us. He's an associate professor of English and brings a wealth of expertise to the table, specializing in a range of writing courses from fictional writing to creative nonfiction. As an advocate for composition pedagogy and addressing writing anxiety, his insights have paved the way for empowering teaching methods. And this is a very interactive presentation today, so feel free, you can put it in the chat box. I'll also be sharing links throughout. And Dr. Craig Wynne, go ahead and get started. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Dr. Cerna. All right, so I always like to start most of my classes with some kind of a free write exercise or an in-class writing exercise, just designed to get people to be thinking about whatever topic it is. What I'd like to start off with is, what are some common problems you see in your classes with respect to student writing? And there's a little QR code that you can scan if you'd like. It leads you to a Padlet, that'll allow you to just make a little just write out your thoughts. Just take about 5 minutes or so just to think, and just get it on the board on the screen. And right, and David and Grace, if you guys want to respond, I know you've taught before, so if you want to respond, you're welcome to do that as well. Any of you, any questions?
Yeah, will do. And I see some others joining in on the call. So I'll go ahead and put that link again in the chat box. You can also use the QR code on the screen to write. So free write, what are some common problems or concerns or issues that you see in student writing?
Very cool. All right, and if you can't use the QR code, I know David just put a link into the chat.
So Dr. Wynne, looks like we have some great responses on the
Okay.
Padlet.
Okay. Yeah. I want to give it another minute or so.
Mhm.
I'm not. I'm intent. Oh, uh, I'm intentionally not looking at them just yet. I just want to see what everybody comes up with first.
Yeah. And as we wait, Dr. Wynne, is Padlet something that you use often in your classes, and how does it work for you?
Yes, I find it works very well when students do some do some kind of an exercise like this. They write it out and they can put their names on it. They can post it anonymously. But what we also do is we're able to look at other perspectives. And since students are writing an argumentative essay at the moment, they wrote their claims. They wrote practice claims or thesis statements on the Padlet, and they got the chance to evaluate some of these other thesis statements as well. So it makes writing, I think, a much more communal thing, and it gives everybody a kind of safe space
Hmm.
to kind of see what everybody's doing, and the anonymity helps as well.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Okay. So just looking at the yeah, okay. So, all right. So a lot of good stuff. All right, let me just put my video back on. All right. So, yeah, a lot of things. Okay. So no proofreading of anything. Okay. Time management. That's one I wrote. Okay. Peer feedback, confidence. So that in bold. Waiting to the last minute. Okay. Not wanting to participate. Audience. Refusing to outline, not researching or citing. Language to impress. Okay. Grant. Okay, grammar, wordiness. So there's okay. So that's a pretty common theme that comes up among instructors whenever I ask this question. Things having to do with grammar and language. So that always comes up, and that's going to tie into what we're talking about today. I really did want to look into a couple of time management threads and lack of confidence. Yeah, that's definitely a huge one. Time management, waiting till the last minute to start or not, and not knowing how to begin writing. Would anybody like to elaborate on what they wrote? I'd just like to just allow us a few minutes to speak on some of what you're seeing, particularly if it had to do with a time management issue. Would anybody like to elaborate on just things you've seen, problems you've noticed?
Yeah, I wrote lack of planning or time management in the writing process. I think it actually ties in a lot to a lack of confidence internally within students, and also speaking from a personal perspective as well. When students feel not confident in their writing, especially if you're in a big class full of people or you're doing a peer review, that self-consciousness can kind of make people push off the process in writing or not want to start outlining. I know for me personally, I started a lot of essays 2 days before or even the day before, and I'd be thinking about it for a week, but I wouldn't actually start until really late in the process. So I think a lot of these actually tie in together as well.
I think so. I would agree with you very much. So absolutely, yeah. A lot of this the lack of confidence, and we'll talk a little bit about this in the presentation. But yeah, when if I'm not feeling confident in something, my first instinct or fight or flight mechanism is going to be to put that thing off, to find excuse, to find reasons not to do those things. And then if I'm looking at this from the lens of a student, to then, okay, the deadline's coming up, I better get something in. And so if students are trying to write, trying to generate ideas and organize and proofread all at the same time, it's like juggling more balls than they're able to handle. I always like to present that metaphor to students, which leads to a lot of these issues that we see, like the poor, like grammar and wordiness, and and outlining, because if they're not giving themselves enough time to outline, particularly if they struggle with organization, that's going to lead to a lot of these problems that we see. And the problems that are on the screen, these are things that whenever I tell people I'm a writing instructor, I always hear something along those lines. So thank you all for posting your answers. So I'll talk a little bit about writing anxiety, and that was actually my dissertation topic. It was about why do people get so anxious when it comes to when it comes to putting things on into a physical form, and a lot of what this really is a an author named Anthony Agbuzi who studied writing among graduate students. It essentially revolves around people's tendencies to avoid writing. And a lot of times it's often contextually dependent as well, where a student might feel completely confident writing in one situation, but freeze up at a different kind of situation. For example, they may feel comfortable writing a post on Twitter, Instagram, or Snapchat, or something like that. But when it comes to writing an essay, okay, what do I do? So a lot of the time, it's dependent on the context of the writing, and some of these causes may have to do a lot of times with negative writing experiences. And one of the things I often tell people is that since we teach college, students aren't coming to us with a blank slate. And particularly if it involves writing, by the time they've reached the college level, they have written before. They've written for instructors, and unfortunately, a lot of instructors aren't necessarily trained in being, diplomatic or even-handed when it comes to their commenting, particularly in their tone. A lot of students have actually had some pretty destructive comments given toward them, and I always ask students about this when we get to peer review, when we ask them about comments they've received. So those kinds of experiences can really put students off from writing and cause that anxiety. Also, unfamiliar genres or styles of writing. So different disciplines, different majors tend to have different discourse expectations, different rules, and we talk about this in my classes all the time. Where writing a paper, writing an essay for a English course, for example, has different rules than writing a lab report. If you're an aspiring chemist. So a lot of times these unfamiliar genres can cause anxiety, and a lot of times it's this fear of the unknown, which I think is pretty universal, but it definitely applies to writing as far as that goes, as well as perceived toughness of audience. Particularly with first year students as well. If students are new to college, a lot of times they can be a little intimidated by us professors. So they might perceive us as being tough and demanding. So that can cause students to freeze up. Also, not understanding the assignment, and a lot of times people, I know we have talked about this in workshops before, where students may be reluctant to ask questions if they don't understand. One thing, and not to go off on too far of a tangent, but I actually brought students to my office hours during a class session so that they know where it is, so that they can associate it with with it being a safe space, so they can ask if they're not understanding. Also, tight deadlines as well, and unfortunately, this becomes very much a self-fulfilling prophecy when students have put off assignments due to a lack of confidence, like Grace was talking about, and the deadlines get shorter and shorter. That anxiety just magnifies. So a lot of this leads to these problems that we tend to see in our writing. Right, nice. And I am periodically checking the comments. Okay, see, Grace wrote, writing as Grace is also hard. Many high schools don't emphasize the importance of process over product. Absolutely, yes, process. And a little later in the presentation, we'll talk a little bit about low stakes writing as part of the process. As well. And if you have any comments, feel free to just throw them into the chat as well, comments or questions. And this is a little chart that I like to create that if students don't necessarily feel confident in their writing. Also, perfectionism can be a problem, particularly among students who are high achievers, where they have to get certain things perfect. There was an article by an author named Mike Rose, who studied writer's block, and he found that a lot of the cause was students having to make the first paragraph perfect before going on to the next one, which keeps students from generating ideas in a way that's effective for them. And such confidence can lead to stress, and again, the stress can lead to procrastination. And again, if I'm stressing about something, if I'm anxious about something, my first instinct is going to be to put it off. And and given with what we saw in that Padlet, with people putting things off to the last minute, that leads to students kind of rushing through assignments and and making all kinds of grammatical mistakes, not organizing in a way that's effective. So this is how a lot of times writing anxiety manifests and leads to products that can be challenging for instructors to to navigate. So this is where I want to get into low stakes writing as a tool to help students work through that particular anxiety. And I'm not a psychologist or a therapist or a counselor. I don't have training in that area, but I have found that when students do have that anxiety, that a lot of the time, the goal that if you're afraid of something, the best way to conquer that fear is to just face it. Low stakes writing is a good way to help to guide students toward doing that. And an iconic scholar in the rhetoric and writing studies field named Peter Elbow, he coined this idea about just giving frequent, small, informal assignments that allow students to reflect in writing things that they learn in readings, discussion, lectures, and just for their own thinking. And generally, they don't have a lot of weight in the final grade. Students in my classes, they write in class. They use in class writing, and they write exercises outside of class that have essentially a very little impact on their grade, as long as they don't miss too many of them. But if they're putting in effort, if they're showing that they're engaging with it, then it does help them. Sometimes it's done in class and sometimes for homework. And I see Dr. Brown's question: how much time do you spend in a typical class for low stakes writing activities? It's usually between maybe 5 and 15 minutes, depending on the topic. It's usually about 5 or so to write it out. Then I have students share with each other. They do a think, pair, share, where they can actually talk it out with a classmate or two, and then sharing it with the class so that students can hear other perspectives as far as that goes. So on average, between maybe 5 and 15 minutes, depending on it. But it's not to help to get them to produce excellent writing right off the bat, but just to get them to think and learn and understand course material. And I see Grace's comment about low stakes assignments. They allow students to experiment with their writing without the fear of making significant mistakes, because that can come up on an essay that's worth X percentage of the grade. So these low stakes assignments, it gives students a safe space to kind of practice, experiment with prose style and strategies that they might not necessarily feel comfortable with on a high stakes assignment without some sort of scaffolding in that respect. So essentially, objectives for low stakes writing include critical thinking about course content. It gets them thinking about concepts, and writing is a great way to help students process information and to develop their own perspectives and independent thinking, and also understanding multiple perspectives. Right now in my IJED 111 classes, students are writing an argument argumentative essay, which the topic which I'll give you a little bit later in the presentation. But it also helps them to understand different perspectives around an argument as well. I've also used this to help students learn how to synthesize sources, how to integrate research into their writing, and also comprehending difficult reading material. I'll show you some ways that we can do this. So things that we do outside of class, and I'm a very big advocate of this first one, reader response journals, because in IGED 111, students have a reading or two that they complete every week, and they respond to it in a journal. They offer a short summary of the reading, and they respond to the reading using different types of text-based connections: text to self, text to text, and text to world. So it allows them to engage with readings based on their own level. There are also triple entry note taking, where students take notes on different readings and lectures, and allows them to comprehend. Class letters as well, where I've had students actually writing letters to each other about just kind of reflecting on concepts, as well as study or discussion questions. And those can help if you're trying to help students help for an exam or things like that. So writing study questions. My classes are project based, so I don't necessarily use those. But if exams are a part of your curriculum, those can help as well. And I see Dr. Brown's question about the small group writing activities. I use a lot of scaffolding exercises in the class, and students and a lot of times students do work in groups, particularly if they're learning something new. For example, next week students are going to be learning about APA and citing sources. So they're going to be working in small groups to help that. Because in this particular case, for a lot of students who are majoring in the sciences and in business, where APA is used, for a lot of our students, this is their first exposure to it. And my experience has shown that they can be a little intimidating toward them. So I do have them working in groups just so that they can sort of feed off each other as far as that goes. But yes, and this actually is a nice segue to low stakes writing that can be used in class. I'm a very big advocate of free writing, particularly, and free writing students just write about just anything that's on their mind. A lot of composition instructors use that in creative writing as well. I'm a big advocate of focused free writing, where students might be given a prompt or a question related to a topic on what we're learning about. So as an introduction to making arguments, I ask students write about a time they've been in an argument or have had a disagreement of some sort. And they write about what is their position on their argument, what was the other party's position, and was there a winner, or did they come to some type of compromise? So that's how I like to use focused free writing, just by giving some type of a question for students to focus on. Class notes can also be a good thing, particularly if it does involve memorization and application of information. I know instructors in the sciences often find those helpful as well. Letters to classmates as well. I have students often using peer review to examine each other's essays and give each other feedback, and they write letters offering such feedback. And in writing the letters, they're able to help each other and help themselves as well. Assignment scaffolding. In my classes, we use a lot of group activities, structured group activities, like Dr. Brown was asking earlier. And there are also exit slips, or what some folks call the 1-minute paper where toward the end of the last few minutes of class, students are often asked to reflect on something that they learned in the session, if there's anything that was unclear or just anything that stood out to them. And so it also helps it'll sometimes help me as an instructor understand where students are coming from, where if there's anything that possibly needs to be addressed in instruction. Do I need to reteach anything if a particularly large number of students are struggling with a particular concept? All right. So those are some examples as far as that goes. Okay. Oh, whoa. Whoops. I think did I just do something? Sorry. Right. Sorry. Just bear with me. Bear with me a second. I don't know what. I think it froze up. Sorry, let me stop my share for a second. Okay. Oh, there we go. There we go. All right, we're having a little technical difficulty. Okay, there we go. Okay, this is what I really want to do. So, okay, so AI. Has anybody in here used AI in your classrooms before? Anybody use ChatGPT or anything like that? Oh, okay. All right. I know this is a very new idea. So this is something so I can't really talk about low stakes writing without talking about AI, and this is something that I'm learning as I go as well. So in my class about foundational writing in the natural and social sciences, I one of my other research interests, as I know David knows, I delivered a presentation on this about a year or two ago, is about the issues of marriage and singlehood. I've been reading, writing, and studying it for years, and I've themed some of my courses around these issues, and I find that students really do get interest in that. So okay, so I see Julian, you had your hand. Was that a question, or are you saying you use AI in your class, or was that a question?
I was just stating I do use AI in my classroom. For students who we have a couple papers or short papers that they complete in my technology class, my GED 250 class, that they are allowed to use AI. My biggest criteria for it is making sure that you cite ChatGPT as a tool that you used for your assignment. Just making sure that you cite it similarly to a reference in APA format, so that you are stating that ChatGPT is also had some part into your assignment. These aren't all completely your words.
Right. Okay. So in other words, students need to cite it. So they need to be able to use it as citations. So okay, so they need to cite it just so we can distinguish, and they can, what's original thought and what's coming from AI. So essentially, what they're doing this semester is they're trying to address the question: are declining marriage rates a good thing, bad thing, or somewhere in between? And the students get really into this topic as well. So students they signed up for ChatGPT accounts, and they actually typed the prompt in there, and it generated essentially the same prompt for everyone. And students had to read through the prompt, and they just brainstormed: are there any ideas that it gave you that you didn't have before? And is there anything that you might consider incorporating in your essay in your own words? And they had also learned about rhetorical modes, issue modes like strategies like cause and effect, using compare and contrast, using narrative, using things like that. Do they fit any of the rhetorical modes? And these were just a couple of different reflections that came from students. So they talked about economic factors, weddings, things like that. And one person was it generated a prompt, and someone started thinking about gender equality and how is that reflective in marriage as well. So AI it can be a very good tool in helping students to kind of generate ideas and to function as a scaffolding exercise as far as that goes. Right. So I also wanted to just show you also from some different fields, some things that some ideas that different professors in different subject areas have used about women in the Han Dynasty and Chinese history, engineering, active redundancies, asking students to outline them just to see what the reading comprehension has been like, and chemistry as well, an application principle that involves also students using multiple intelligences like visual intelligence, drawing, and giving a real life example about using chemistry concepts to convert seawater into drinking water. So these are all low stakes exercises that different instructors in different disciplines have used to help students to gain understanding in different subject areas. All right, so like any good academic, I do have to cite my sources. So these are just my reference, and I guess now at this point we can open it up to any questions or comments. Some very good ones in the chat. So I'd love to hear what we all have to say, or just anything we want to know more about, ideas.
Yeah, and Craig, if you go to the next slide, I can just briefly talk as we wait for some questions to come. I will put Craig's email, Dr. Craig Wynne's email, in the chat box, as well as our C.A.L email, that is calhelpdesk@udc.edu. And we also hope to see you for the next writing webinar with Professor Craig Wynne. That is on Wednesday, October 11th at 2 to 3 p.m. That will be about fostering creativity, engaging prompts, and expressive writing. So I did put the link in the chat box for you as well. And Dr. Wynne, if I can ask you, what are the 3 key takeaways you hope attendees have gained from this webinar?
Okay, well, one is my hope is that you understand how writing anxiety manifests in students and how that impacts student writing. 2 is understanding how low stakes writing can assist students in the writing process. And 3, my hope is that you walk away with at least one strategy that you can use to help students engage with low stakes writing.
Excellent. And are there any other questions from the participants today?
But if there aren't any questions, I actually would like to show. I actually would like to show something.
Of course, please.
Yeah. So let me just stop sharing at the moment, and I'm gonna put up another piece. And I don't know if you've seen this, Julian. I know I sent this to you and Fatma the other day, but before students actually jumped into using ChatGPT, we actually had a very nice discussion based on this infographic on AI. So just ways to use AI, like helping to conceptualize, helping students to understand ideas, and ways not to use it. So so students obviously don't want to use it to complete the assignment, and also with research, because a lot of times, and I think David and I were just talking about this before our talk, that AI isn't smarter than a human, but it really just amalgamates data, and sometimes it doesn't give the most accurate data either. So it should never replace research if you're using anything like that. If you're having students do research, that it shouldn't replace that. Students still do need to actively engage in that process. So I just wanted to share this one pager with you, and I find that it's a very good tool for students.
Absolutely. And I actually kind of wanted to add to that point. I think you bring up a great point and I think me and Dave have had that conversation as well, that when using AI and when using any new tool nowadays, information literacy is a focal point, knowing what kind of information you're pulling up, making sure it's reliable. It comes from reliable sources, reliable peer-reviewed journals and articles, not just using AI as a tool like that, because Wikipedia has a lot of answers, and we know it's not it's not research based. So you want to make sure that when you're using that tool and incorporating it, that they do still understand that all of the information you're getting from a chat GBT still needs to be thoroughly researched to review and make sure that it is best practice.
Right. Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, those of us, I'm sure we've all probably steered students away from using Wikipedia exclusively. And I've had students go through Wikipedia articles and see, is there anything that cites a source that you could actually find? So students can use it to find sources, but relying on it for information is counterproductive. At best, and the same principle applies to AI as well. All right, are there any other questions or comments?
Hi, sorry. I just want to say thank you for this. Thank you for all this information. This is great. And I'm so glad that you recorded it, because I need to go back and listen to it. I was just juggling a few things, and then I got locked out at one point. But this was so informative. And yes, I'll be at the next one as well, because these things they're just so helpful for upping our teaching game, which is, always necessary. We are all interested in student engagement and that student anxiety and apprehension that we all may well know something about, just as humans. So and students even more so being put on the spot, especially like, some of us I think are dealing with like freshmen, 18-year-olds, and it's been a long time since I was 18. So, you just kind of forget that, yeah, students are really sometimes pretty reticent. So everything you said here that I caught was just, great exercise to get them to open up. And so again, I'll be at the next one, but I really appreciate this one, and I'll go back and listen to every word of it.
Thank you, Professor Bridgewater, and yeah, absolutely, yeah, because I think a lot of us we tend to take the writing process just for granted, but yeah, for students do tend to struggle with that process. So helping them to understand that that doesn't all have to happen at once. That that it can build slowly.
Yeah, and Professor Bridgewater, and for anyone else on this call, you will receive a follow-up email from us that has the webinar recording, the survey link, as well as a copy of Professor Wynne's slides.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
All right.
My pleasure.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right. Well, thank you very much. If any questions come up, you saw my email, just please feel free to get in touch with me. If you ever want a writing workshop for any of your students on any facet of the writing process or certain elements of writing, please let me know. I am happy to help in any way possible.
Yeah, and thank you again, Professor. This has been a very enlightening webinar, so really appreciate your time and your efforts today with sharing these tips.
Great. Thank you so much. Professor.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, have a great day, everyone. We hope to see you on the next call. Bye-bye.
All right.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.